Have you ever looked at your life and wondered when it stopped being about you? Maybe your days now revolve around your children, their needs, their schedules, their problems. As parents, we give out of love. But over time, many of us begin to feel like we've traded our independence for obligation. We say yes when we're tired, give when we're uncertain, and slowly our time and energy no longer feel like our own. It's easy to slip into this pattern, especially as we grow older and want to stay connected. But there's a difference between being supportive and becoming a servant in your own old age. Here's the good news. You can still be a loving parent without losing yourself. In this video, we'll explore 7 powerful ways to protect your freedom as you age, from setting healthy boundaries to ensuring your financial independence. These simple but life-changing steps will help you reclaim your time, energy, and dignity, while keeping your relationships with your family strong and respectful. Stay with me. What you hear today might just change how you live the years ahead. Let's begin. Number 1. Protect your peace by setting boundaries. As we grow older, one of the most powerful and liberating skills we can develop is the ability to say a simple word: no. For many parents, saying no feels almost unnatural. You've spent a lifetime showing up, giving, adjusting, sacrificing. When your children need something, whether it's a last-minute babysitter, a loan, help moving, or just a listening ear, you step in even if it costs you sleep, energy, or your own plans. But here's the truth we often forget. You are not a limitless resource. And your time, energy, and emotional well-being matter deeply. Saying no does not mean you've stopped caring. It doesn't make you selfish, cold, or unloving. It means that you are finally honoring your own needs with the same compassion you've always extended to others. If you find yourself constantly feeling drained, overlooked, or resentful, it's not a sign of failure. It's a sign that boundaries are missing, and it's time to reclaim them. Let me share the story of George, a 78-year-old grandfather with a heart as big as his calendar was full. For years, George said yes to everything. If his kids needed help, he was there. No matter how tired he felt, how full his schedule was, or what he had to cancel, George made it work. Until one day, he couldn't anymore. The exhaustion caught up. The joy was gone. And worst of all, he realized his help had started to feel expected rather than appreciated. So George did something bold. He decided to make a change. He didn't cut off his children. He didn't stop caring. But he started to pause before saying yes. He asked himself, do I really want to do this? Can I do this without sacrificing my own well-being? And when the answer was no, he honored that. At first, his children were surprised. There were some awkward moments, a few disappointed reactions. But over time, something remarkable happened. They began to respect him more. The relationship shifted from unspoken obligation to mutual understanding. And George, for the first time in a long while, felt free and at peace. That's the beauty of boundaries. They aren't about shutting people out. They're about letting yourself in. They protect your peace, preserve your dignity, and allow you to live these precious years with clarity and joy. When you set healthy limits, you're not punishing anyone. You're simply refusing to sacrifice your well-being to keep others comfortable. And in doing so, you give your children the chance to appreciate your presence instead of taking it for granted. So if you've been giving and giving until there's nothing left for yourself, hear this. You have given enough. Now it's time to give yourself permission to rest, to choose, and to live on your own terms. Number 2. Maintain your own life and interest. One of the quietest, yet most common ways older adults lose themselves is by letting their world slowly shrink around their children. And it rarely happens all at once. It begins with little compromises, canceling lunch with a friend to run errands for your son, shelving that art class you wanted to take because your daughter might need you, or telling yourself, I'll get back to that hobby next week. But next week never comes. The shift is subtle, and over time, without even realizing it, your own life becomes an afterthought. And here's the hard truth. When your days revolve entirely around your children, you risk forgetting who you are outside of the title mom or dad. But you are, and always have been, more than a parent. You are a person with a rich, complex inner life. You have stories, skills, curiosities, and dreams that deserve space to breathe, even now, especially now. If you let go of your personal interests, not only do you begin to lose your sense of self, but you also lose touch with the very things that once brought you joy, purpose, and connection. And nothing accelerates aging more than feeling like your life no longer belongs to you. Let me share the story of Edward, a 76-year-old retired teacher who once had a passion for woodworking. He used to spend hours in his garage carving, sanding, building beautiful pieces by hand. But when his daughter gave birth, he gladly stepped into the role of caregiver for his new grandson. One day here, 1 week there, and soon his days were filled with bottles, diapers, and nap schedules. Years passed. The tools collected dust. The projects were left unfinished. It wasn't until a dear friend nudged him to join a local woodworking group that Edward remembered the joy he once felt. He picked up his tools again, and something inside him reawakened. His mood lifted. His energy returned. He made new friends. And slowly, he reclaimed a part of himself that had quietly gone missing. You see, it's easy to tell ourselves that we're just helping out, that we're doing what loving parents do. But at some point, you have to stop and ask, who is helping you stay alive inside? A meaningful old age isn't about waiting to be needed. It's about pursuing what makes you feel most alive. Whether it's picking up an old hobby, traveling to places you've always dreamed of, learning to paint, joining a book club, tending a garden, or simply spending time with people who light you up, these things matter. They are not indulgences. They are lifelines to your independence, your joy, and your vitality. And perhaps just as important, when your children see you living a full, active life, they are reminded that you are your own person, not just someone who exists to serve them. So go ahead. Dust off the guitar. Take that trip. Enroll in that class. Reignite what once stirred your soul. Because your children have their own lives to live. And you, dear friend, deserve to live yours fully too. If you found value in today's insight, type number 2 in the comments. Not just to let me know you're here, but to affirm your own commitment to protecting your peace and your future. And if you haven't already, I invite you to subscribe and tap the notification bell. Each week, we share heartfelt guidance to help you live with more clarity, confidence, and calm, no matter your age. Your presence here means so much. Thank you for being part of this growing community, one where your life, your time, and your worth are always honored. Let's keep going, together. Number 3. Set clear boundaries. One of the most common, and often most painful, mistakes older parents make is believing that their role as a provider never truly ends. You've given so much, your time, your energy, your love, your sacrifices. You fed them, protected them, supported them through every stage of life. You stood by them as they became adults. But now here you are, perhaps retired, perhaps dealing with health concerns of your own, and still you feel as though you're expected to drop everything at a moment's notice. To fill in, step up, and say yes even when your heart is quietly asking for rest. Here's something you may need to hear again. You do not owe anyone your entire old age. It's deeply noble to want to help your children, to remain involved in their lives, and to be there for your grandchildren. But there is a profound difference between offering love and surrendering your life. If you're constantly rearranging your plans to meet their demands, if you feel a twinge of guilt every time you say no, if your calendar feels like it belongs more to them than to you, it may be time to pause, reflect, and draw some boundaries. Because the truth is, healthy relationships are built on mutual respect. And that includes respect for your time, your energy, and your personal needs. Boundaries are not barriers. They're bridges, strong and clear ones, that allow love to flow both ways without drowning your own identity. Setting boundaries doesn't mean shutting out your children or being unkind. It means saying with calm and confidence, my needs matter too. Let me share a story, not uncommon, of someone I'll call Robert, a 72-year-old father and grandfather. In his retirement, Robert found himself babysitting his grandchildren 5 days a week. At first, it brought him joy, the laughter, the energy, the connection. But slowly he realized something was missing. His life. His hobbies, his friendships, his quiet afternoons, had all vanished. It wasn't until he finally voiced his feelings and set some gentle limits that everything began to shift. His children, to his surprise, understood. They found other arrangements. And Robert? He rediscovered his time, his autonomy, and a deep sense of peace, all without harming the bond he shared with his family. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's wise. It's healthy. And it's deeply necessary. As a parent, your goal was never to raise dependents, it was to raise capable, thriving adults. Adults who can stand on their own. When you honor your limits, you're not only protecting your own well-being, you're also modeling strength and self-respect for your children and grandchildren. Because love doesn't mean overextending yourself. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to simply say, "Not today, I have plans." Number 4. Teach self-reliance instead of dependence. One of the greatest, most enduring gifts you can give your children, no matter how old they are, is the ability to stand tall on their own 2 feet. Yet for many parents, especially in the later years, love becomes entangled with overprotection. You've spent a lifetime smoothing the path for them, catching them before they fall, solving problems before they even ask. And while that kind of care is rooted in love, too much of it can quietly become a barrier to their personal growth. It's important to ask yourself a difficult but honest question. Am I truly helping them, or am I enabling them? When your adult children come to you for money, for constant emotional reassurance, or to clean up the messes they've made, and you always say yes, you're not giving them strength. You're giving them dependency. And over time, that dependency doesn't just affect them, it can wear you down. You may begin to feel depleted, used, or even invisible in the relationship. Let me tell you about Frank, a 70-year-old father who had spent decades stepping in every time his son stumbled. Frank paid off debts, covered rent, and offered a steady stream of advice and support whenever things went wrong. It felt like the right thing to do, until one day Frank realized that his son, now in his 40s, still hadn't learned how to face life on his own. So Frank did something incredibly hard. He stopped rescuing. He offered love, yes, but no more handouts, no more saving the day. At first, his son struggled. He made mistakes. He faced consequences. But over time, something shifted. He learned. He matured. He began making better choices. And most surprisingly of all, their relationship grew stronger. Because there was no longer an unspoken contract that dad would always be the safety net. There was mutual respect. Supporting your children doesn't mean carrying them. It means standing beside them, not beneath them. It means offering wisdom, not control, listening with compassion, not rushing in to fix. It means trusting them enough to let them struggle a little, because struggle is how we all learn to be strong. If you keep stepping in to spare them from discomfort, you may unintentionally be robbing them of the resilience they need to build a meaningful life. And in the process, you rob yourself of the peace, rest, and independence you've earned. So the next time you feel tempted to step in, pause. Ask yourself, is this helping them grow? Or is it just delaying the growth they need? Because one of the most loving things you can do for your children is to say, "I believe in you enough to let you figure this out." If you're still watching and these reflections resonate with you, type number 4 in the comments to let me know you're here and taking this journey with us. And if you haven't already, I warmly invite you to subscribe and tap the bell icon so you'll never miss a message crafted with care just for you. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us continue creating content that both informs and uplifts. Number 5. Prioritize your own financial security. Many older adults, out of deep love or lingering obligation, find themselves putting their children's financial needs ahead of their own. It starts small. A few hundred here, a loan co-signed there, and before long retirement savings begin to dwindle, safety nets disappear, and the quiet anxiety of what if starts to settle in. Let me speak plainly here from both wisdom and experience. Once your money is gone, there is no one waiting in the wings to refill it for you. And that's a truth we don't often hear out loud. Retirement was meant to be a season of rest, fulfillment, and freedom. A time to enjoy what you've spent decades building. Yet for so many, this chapter becomes clouded by stress, not because of their own poor planning but because they couldn't say no to the people they love the most. Maybe you've dipped into your savings to help a child pay off debt. Maybe you've given more than you could afford, hoping they'd get back on their feet. And maybe, deep down, you feared that saying no would be interpreted as cold or uncaring. But here's the thing, protecting your financial future isn't selfish, it's responsible. Yes, helping your children when you're able is a beautiful thing. But sacrificing your own stability, your security, your healthcare, your home, for their temporary comfort? That is a dangerous trade-off. Because the truth is, the greatest financial gift you can offer your children is to ensure that you do not become financially dependent on them later on. Let me tell you about Harold, a 74-year-old retired electrician. He loved his son deeply, but that love was tested again and again by financial requests. Each time his son struggled, Harold was there with a checkbook. Each time his son promised to pay it back. But the money never returned. Slowly, Harold began to see what was happening. His hard-earned retirement fund was shrinking. His peace of mind was disappearing. And still, his son had not learned to manage his own life. Eventually, Harold made one of the hardest and most courageous decisions of his life. He stopped bailing his son out. He chose instead to have an honest conversation, one rooted in love but guided by clarity. It wasn't easy, but something surprising happened. His son, after a difficult adjustment, began to take ownership of his own finances. And Harold? He reclaimed his future. That story is more common than you think. If your children come to you for financial help, ask yourself, will this jeopardize my own stability? Are they asking for support or are they avoiding growth? Is this helping them or enabling them? Remember, you've spent a lifetime building what you have. And now, more than ever, you deserve to protect it. Not just for yourself, but as a model of what self-respect and wise stewardship look like. Say no when you need to. Say yes only when it's safe to do so. And most importantly, don't let guilt be the reason you give away your peace of mind. Because no one else will safeguard your future if you don't. Number 6. Establish emotional independence. One of the most subtle and deeply personal challenges many older parents face is the quiet dependence they form around their children's attention. You may not even realize it at first. It can show up as waiting anxiously for a phone call, feeling hurt when visits are canceled, or letting your mood rise and fall depending on how much your children seem to include you in their lives. But here's a truth we often avoid confronting. Your happiness should not hinge on someone else's behavior, not even your children's. The moment you tie your emotional well-being to how often they reach out, how grateful they seem, or how present they are in your world, you give away one of your most sacred powers, the power to shape your own joy. Let's be clear, loving your family deeply is one of life's greatest blessings. But there's a quiet, powerful difference between loving them and being emotionally dependent on them. When your self-worth becomes entangled with how needed or appreciated you feel, you put yourself in a constant state of vulnerability. And in that space, even small disappointments, a missed birthday call, a forgotten invitation, can feel like heartbreak. The truth is, your children likely love you very much. But they're also busy, navigating careers, raising families, managing responsibilities. Their ability to stay connected consistently doesn't always reflect the depth of their care. It simply reflects the pace of their lives. Let me share the story of Elaine, a 73-year-old woman who used to feel deeply wounded every time her son canceled dinner or forgot to call. She told herself it was harmless to hope, but over time she noticed that waiting for his attention became the emotional centerpiece of her week. And when it didn't come, she felt invisible. One day, with quiet courage, she made a shift. She began making plans with old friends. She joined a local book club. She rekindled her love for watercolor painting. And something remarkable happened. She smiled more, stood taller, and even laughed a little easier. To her surprise, her son began reaching out more too, not because she asked him to, but because the energy had changed. There was no more weight of obligation, just warmth, lightness, and space for real connection. You have that same power. When you build an emotional life rooted in your own passions, your own friendships, your own joy, you stop depending on others to fill your cup. And that's when relationships can breathe again. Not as lifelines, but as blessings. Surround yourself with people who uplift you. Do things that feed your soul. Join communities, try something new, or revisit something old that once made your heart sing. Remember, your worth does not diminish because someone forgot to call. Your life is still full of meaning, not because others say so, but because you decide it is. So if you've been holding your happiness hostage, waiting for someone else to deliver it, this is your moment to reclaim it. Because real joy doesn't come from being needed. It comes from being whole even when you're alone. If this message touches your heart, let me know you're here by typing number 6 in the comments. You are not alone on this journey. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe and tap the notification bell so we can continue to share these quiet truths, week by week, word by word, together. Number 7. Nurture meaningful relationships beyond your family. As we age, our world naturally begins to shift. Children grow up, grandchildren become busy, and what was once a bustling household can grow quiet. For many older adults, family remains at the heart of life, and rightly so. But when your entire emotional and social world revolves only around your children, you run the risk of isolation, dependency, and heartache. The truth is, you need more than just family to feel truly fulfilled. You need friends who make you laugh, conversations that spark your curiosity, companions for walks, for shared hobbies, for Sunday afternoons that stretch gently into evening. You need community, a sense of belonging that isn't solely tied to your role as a parent or grandparent. Because no matter how much your children love you, they cannot be everything for you. Let me introduce you to Miriam, a vibrant 75-year-old woman who once found her entire life orbiting around her 2 adult daughters. Every holiday, every plan, every ounce of her emotional energy went into staying close to them. But when one daughter moved abroad and the other started a demanding new job, Miriam found herself feeling lost, unanchored, unsure of what to do with the silence. That's when she decided to step out just a little. She joined a walking group at the local community center. She began attending a weekly coffee morning. She even took a painting class, something she hadn't done since her 20s. And slowly her life began to open again. New names, new routines, new joy. And the best part? Her relationship with her daughters deepened. Not because they were seeing her more, but because she had found her own rhythm again. Relationships are like gardens. Family may be your roots, but friends, neighbors, and communities can be the flowers that bring beauty and variety to your days. So don't be afraid to reach out. Join a club. Volunteer. Say yes to that invitation. Rekindle an old friendship. Wave to the neighbor you've passed 100 times. Whether it's a shared interest or a shared story, connection heals and uplifts us. You deserve companionship that fills your cup, not just relationships that draw from it. Remember, life after 60, 70, even 80 isn't a closing chapter. It's simply a new season. One where you get to choose what fills your time, your heart, and your days. Final thoughts. If you've made it to this point in the video, I want to take a moment to say something simple but important. Thank you. Thank you for showing up for yourself today. Thank you for listening with an open heart. And thank you for having the courage to consider a new way of living, one that honors not just your love for your family but your love for yourself. Growing older doesn't mean fading into the background. It doesn't mean becoming a caretaker by default or placing your joy on hold for others. These later years can be some of the most liberating years of your life, filled with deeper wisdom, fuller self-expression, and a kind of peace that only comes when we finally choose to live on our own terms. You can still be a loving parent and grandparent. You can still show up for your family. But you don't have to lose yourself in the process. Your time is valuable. Your energy is sacred. And your happiness? It matters deeply. So I encourage you to revisit these 7 truths often. Let them anchor you when old habits try to pull you back into guilt, overgiving, or silence. Let them remind you that you are allowed to say no, to protect your peace, to rediscover your passions, and to build a life that brings you joy, not just the people around you. Because you've spent decades giving. Now it's your turn to receive, to breathe, to grow, to live. If today's message touched your heart, please leave a comment below. Share what spoke to you most. And if you haven't already, subscribe and click the bell so you'll never miss the quiet encouragement we offer each week. From my heart to yours, may you walk forward with grace, with confidence, and with the deep knowing that you are enough just as you are. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, take gentle care of yourself.